This is practice A for section 8.3. What additional information is needed in order to prove that quadrilateral ABCD is a parallelogram? So they're telling you this. What else would you need to make that a parallelogram? Okay, so if I would just redraw the shape real quick, they're telling me that the top and the bottom are parallel. That's what that says. Well, what else would you need to make it a parallelogram? Well, you could have two different answers. You could say that these need to be parallel. That's segment AD and segment BC. That would make it a parallelogram. Or you could use, that's the definition, by the way, you could use the theorem that we learned. That's theorem 8.9 that tells you if you have one pair of parallel sides that are opposite, if those sides are congruent at the same time, that would make it a parallelogram too. So either of these. Number 16, segment AB is congruent to segment DC. It would look a lot like this. So if you have these congruent, if you had those parallel also, that would work. Or if you already have the top and bottom congruent, if you knew that the left side and the right side were congruent as well, that would make it a parallelogram. Okay, so this one or this one going this way. Number 17, angle DCB. That's that angle right there in that bottom right-hand corner. It's congruent to angle DAB. That's the angle in the top left-hand corner. So if you know that, what else do you need? Only one answer for this guy. It's just that. You need to know that these angles are congruent. So how would you name them? Use three letters. Angle ADC, angle ABC. Number 18. They tell you that segment DE is congruent to segment EB. So it's this. You know that. You know one diagonal is bisected, basically. Well, what do you need to make it a parallelogram? You need the other diagonal to be bisected. Number 19. The measure of angle CDA, that's this big angle on the bottom left, plus the measure of angle DAB, that's the big angle on the top left, they add up to 180. So if these add up to 180, what that means is these are parallel. So I know they didn't tell you they were parallel, but if you have consecutive interior angles that are supplementary, then these are definitely parallel. So you could then show that those are congruent as well. If those would be congruent, that would make it a parallelogram. Or you could do this too. You could just show that the other sides are parallel. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that, obviously. You could just say, well, I want these to be parallel. That would do it. Or you could do the same thing with the angles. You could show that the angles are the same. So you could have done this. Make sure those are the same. Or make sure those are the same. Or both. A lot of different ways to do that. Number 20. Angle DCA, that's this little angle right here, is congruent to angle BAC. This is gonna turn out a lot like this problem here. So I have angle DCA congruent to this angle there. That forces the top and the bottom to be parallel. That's not enough to make it a parallelogram. So how could you make it a parallelogram? Well, you could make these other alternate interior angles congruent. That would do it. That would force these to be parallel. Or you could just say the top and bottom are congruent too.